Okay, so we've gotten to the point where the player's got some health and we've got the health bar displaying and all that kind of stuff. But when the health gets to 0, currently nothing happens. So just going to show you now how you can get another sort of screen or widget to appear when something happens, like for example, the health gets to 0. Um, so first of all, let's go to our blueprints folder. We're not going to use the widget that we've been using for everything else. We're going to get this to display a new one. And I'm just going to make it say game over, but you can do something a bit different if you want to. Right, so just right click in the box, user interface widget. I'm just going to call it game over widget. That'll be fine. Double click it, and obviously you can design this how you want, but I'm just going to drop a text block in there. Make it say game over. Make it nice and big. Let's make it red. Give it an outline, and let's put that in the middle, somewhere like that. Okay, and obviously don't forget to anchor it. Okay, so that's our widget. Just game over. We don't need to link this to anything like we've been doing before. It just needs to display the screen. So now we need to tell the game when to display the screen. So we're going to go over to the first person character again because we need something that's always going to be persistently there. Don't need to change anything in the viewport, just need to go to the event graph. You've obviously got all this stuff going on which is to do with how the character moves and shoots and everything. So we're just going to find some blank space, right click, and we want to get the event tick event. Okay, so remember that's just checking every frame of the game. What we're asking it to check. So we need to check essentially whether the health has gotten to 0. Okay, so I suppose normally if you're writing code from scratch, it would be like an if statement. But what we need to use is this thing called a branch. Okay, and a branch is kind of like your if statement. So you've got a condition which we can set, and then what happens as an action, whether that's true or false. Okay, so the condition is float, because it's the health is a float variable, if you remember. So if the float is less than or equal to, okay, because depending on how much damage they take, it could jump past 0 and go to minus. Okay, so that's why it's always best to not just go equal to 0, because let's say you had 5 health left and an enemy took 10 health from you, you're going to go to -5 and you're going to leap past 0, so you wouldn't essentially die because you hadn't hit exactly 0. So it's always best to go to less than or equal to 0. And then remember we've got our health already here, so we don't need to cast to anything in this instance because the variable is already within the blueprint that we're editing. So I'm just going to drag in health, get health at the top. Okay, so the condition is if this health value here is less than or equal to 0. Okay, which is fine. So if that's true, then we need to create a widget. Okay, and the widget we want it to create is the game over widget that we just made. And we need to remember to add to viewport. Okay, and link the target back. So compile that and that's fine. So that's going to constantly be looking for this condition if the health is less than or equal to 0. If that's true, it's going to display this widget to the screen. If it's false, if that's just left blank, then it will just continue looping around forever unless you give it a false condition, which we don't need to. We just need the game to just carry on as normal. So leave that blank. So let's just test it. Compile it, play, and just kill ourselves basically. And eventually we'll die. One more. Okay, so game over has appeared. However, the game is still running. You know, I can just carry on as normal and get more points. So what we need to do is go back into first person character, and after this has been displayed, what we then need to do is just set the game to paused. Okay, and then make sure paused is ticked here. Okay, so all that will do is once it's added that to the viewport, it will just pause the game, so nothing can continue any further. Okay, so let's just test that again. Okay, one more. Okay, so game over has appeared. The game is completely paused, and I can't do anything. Okay, so I have to push escape to get out. But obviously, it does still keep the widget for the main HUD with the score and everything. So we can see it's game over and we can see what our final score was. Okay, so push exit. So that's a fairly straightforward one, really. So obviously made this game over widget. You can do whatever you want with this. If you wanted, you could have this as a full screen. So obviously this is just transparent background. But if you dragged in an image like that, filled the whole screen. Over here you've got it like layers, kind of like Photoshop. So you put that on the text on the top. It's like Photoshop, but the reverse. So the layer at the bottom is actually the top. A bit annoying. And then the image, if you want to change that to your own image, come over to this side, and you want to find brush. There it is. And you can see image, and you can add in your own image. However, for it to appear here, let me just minimize that. You need to import that image. So I don't have an image, but let's say you wanted to, you could just right click here, create yourself a new folder called images or something, and then you can click this import button and you can import, you know, PNG, JPEG, whatever you want to import. Then you can come over to here again and it will be here in this list. Okay, you can just search for it if you needed to, and then you can add that as a full background. Okay, if you didn't want to see the game continuing behind, but that's personal preference, up to you, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to leave it with that. Alright, and then in the character, what we've done is the event tick is continuously checking for this condition being the health is equal to or less than 0. When that is true, it's going to create this game over widget, add it to the viewport so we can see it, and then pause the game. Okay.